All right, we're back with another episode of Simple Seafood. This is John Wandrus here, owner, founder of Alaskan Seafood Guys, and we're gonna jump right into it. So, last couple days I've had some very interesting conversations with a lot of guys who are in businesses similar to mine or who are in the seafood industry. And my background is, I worked on fishing boats up in Alaska, and I also ran seafood plants up there in factories. So I'm very dialed in on, just everything, all the economics behind this, everything that goes into running plants, buying fish, getting the fish into a finished product and off to, markets, direct to consumers. So there's a lot of steps and costs that go into that. And what we're going to talk about today is why is crab so expensive? And before I dive into crab, I do just want to say real quick, a conversation I was having yesterday is, we haven't seen, terrible increases in a lot of fish quite yet, but a lot of that too is, a lot like the salmon. A lot of the salmon that's out there right now is still a lot of the 2020 salmon. So you guys got to realize, the 2021 seasons, are, wrapping up or are still just kind of underway in Alaska. So a lot of that salmon is just now starting to hit the markets here in the lower 48 and even worldwide too. So we're definitely going to see some stuff in salmon and fish as well, some increases. But let's talk about crab. Crab has been bananas. So let's just to put this in perspective to you guys. So, this time last year, we had Dungeness crab in our store, for example, that we had for sale we were at that time hovering, we were probably right at $15 a pound. This was the time period where we were moving from like 14 to 15, and then I think we had to creep up to 15.50 right, towards the into the fall of 2020. And right now, when we can get Dungeness crab, we're at $23 or $24 a pound, and that's retail cost. That's when you come into our store, and it's crazy. And you're seeing this stuff everywhere. Crab prices have gone up so high. I mean, we're talking 100 to 150% increases. So what is going on? I will break this down into the information that I know. And please realize that I have a very deep background. I do have a great understanding of this. Again, I don't know all the intricacies of all the economical aspects that also are in play with this. But I'm going to break down, what I know as, someone who's sourcing Alaskan seafood, and what I'm seeing, and when I have conversations with other people in the industry, what we're talking about. So going back to the Dungeness crab season. So last year in Alaska, Dungeness, it was an absolute amazing season. Even in 2020 with the coronavirus, and there was still plenty of issues that the coronavirus had, which, for example, seafood plants. I know there was so much crab that there were factories backed up there. They couldn't process because workers were infected and factories had to shut down. So there was so much crab that guys up there couldn't even process. So that definitely drove stuff down. That's supply and demand. There was so much crab out there that, it definitely drove that price down. There was other areas in Alaska that had some, really big, like Kodiak, and then what is that, out around, I believe it's Sandpoint. There were some really strong fisheries out there. I think, Kodiak, I think, was like record landings last year, and I think the Sandpoint fishery was super strong. And you guys got to realize that up in Alaska, there's summer seasons, and then there's also fall seasons. So there's a little gap in between. But what that did is that just created a very good supply of crab, and there was a lot of crab. So that definitely pushed things onto the market. So going towards the end of 2020, we were still in great shape. Then that stuff hits the market. We're into 2021. The Washington Coast season is underway, and I think right at the bat, it was things were looking okay. Landings were all right. But then the fishery itself, the amount of crab just took a dive. I mean, there was barely any crab around. And so, I'd say after we got into the winter, I mean, prices were starting to creep up, but everything was still pretty strong. We were doing a really good job, still getting plenty of crab out of Alaska. We were able to get the first shots of crab out of Washington that, in my mind, were still affected by the Alaskan prices just because there was so much crab out there on the market. So there wasn't a big effect quite yet. And now let's kind of let's flash forward a little bit because, I knew that crab prices were starting to go up, but, we were trying to get enough of the Washington Coast crab at a very good price to last us until summer when, the crab fishery, Dungeness crab fisheries were going to start again in Alaska, in Southeast. And that completely flopped. So that fishery in the summertime that started, I want to say this past June, was absolute garbage. There has been very little crab in Southeast Alaska. It has been very, very bad. And here's the other thing that's very interesting that's going on is because these markets or because these fisheries are so bad, a lot of that crab from last year, it's out there and it's gone. So, there was a little bit of carryover, but that stuff right now is pretty much gone. And it is so hard to find frozen crab. And what I mean by that is going to be like, sure, you got your whole cooks or like your sections, your clusters that we do. And that stuff is so hard to find right now because the little bit of crab that is being harvested, what fishermen are doing are they're trying to get the most out of their harvest. So a lot of this crab is going fresh. And the Asian markets right now are hungry. So hungry. Things are opened up again. And so much of this crab, the little bit that there is going fresh over to these Asian markets. So like for guys like us, we're having a very hard time of finding crab. I was on the phone with a buddy of mine who has this very similar business over in the Midwest. And first thing he asked me is like, how are you guys getting crab? Like, what are you doing for crab? And I was like, man, we're not. I mean, we're getting it every once in a while, but we're having to pull strings. We usually sit on a good amount of crab, and there's times we're going like case for case, just trying to get stuff in on top of the price increases. So the little bit of crab that's out there right now, most of this stuff is all going fresh, so we're not seeing that supply of clusters grow right now. And so, it's still, things are not looking good. The only hope we have is if, the fall fisheries are very big and there's a lot of crab out there, that's going to, drive processors to have to cook crab again and get more clusters, and hopefully that fresh market, there's enough crab to where that stabilizes a little bit so the price isn't just insane and they're eating everything up. And the big question is going into the holidays. So that's why I'm really hoping that the fall fisheries in Alaska produce. And then, that winter fishery in Washington, which, really gets going after Christmas, we're really hoping that thing produces too. What a lot of guys are doing right now is utilizing snow crab to replace Dungeness. But again, snow crab is up insanely high. It's very similar to Dungeness, where you're talking 100% increases, if not more. You're seeing the same thing in king crab. But that's just a rough breakdown of what we're seeing in crab right now. And again, guys, just to also let you know, I mean, minus all the craziness just with the fisheries and crab not being caught and the Asian markets eating up all of the crab that is being caught in the fresh market, the other thing that's going on is prices are jumping up extremely high. So, when you're in Alaska, this stuff is obviously, it's bought from the fishermen, it's processed at the plant, and then it's shipped typically via barge in big freezer containers down to places like Seattle, and then it's dispersed. So what you got to realize is, number one, up in Alaska, to get workers up there, it's just like what everyone is seeing right now. So when a worker used to make, let's just say, $11, $12, $13 an hour, all of a sudden that had to go up to 15 to 16 just to get people up there. And there's probably other incentives just to get workers up there as well. So all of a sudden you got a very big price increase right there. Then to get that crab back down, all freight costs have just skyrocketed. I mean, people are saying anywhere from 25, 30, upwards of 50% in logistics and freight costs. So all of a sudden that's added on top of it. So not only are we experiencing fisheries that just aren't producing right now, you have all those costs that are kind of part of the supply chain that have gone up as well. That's affecting it too. So that's why, I mean, at the end of the day, we've seen crab go up, like I said, anywhere between 100 to 150%, and it's bananas. So that's a quick update. That is why crab is so dang expensive right now. And again, it's like anything, you know, this is how this stuff goes. So we'll definitely get through this wave, but keep your eyes on that. When you guys see dips in crab, make sure to get it. You know, we'll keep you guys updated, but we'll know a lot more after this fall fishery. And if lots of crab show up in Alaska, we'll be in much better shape leading into holidays, so that your Christmas dinner isn't like you're having to eat gold. So hopefully we'll have a better update here in the next month or two. But that is why crab is so expensive. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Simple Seafood. John Wandrus, Alaskan Seafood Guys. Subscribe, get updates and amazing content. Visit AlaskanSeafoodGuys.com for amazing Alaskan seafood shipped to you anywhere in the lower 48 United States. Thanks, guys.